So now let's go ahead and check out our cymbals. The cymbals don't need that much mixing. I think with some low frequency cutting, we can do a lot of these cymbals. Let's solo the overhead ambients and hi-hats. And usually what you don't want to have on your overheads and highs that much is the snare and the kick drums and the toms. They're audible quite well here. Especially the snare and the toms. It's okay that they're on there. I mean, we're in a digital world. I could disable the microphone bleed on the overheads completely so the toms and snares are not on the overhead at all, but this would be unrealistic, right? And we want to keep a little bit of realism because we don't want to have that overall digital drum tone, you know. That sounds not good. And what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna put some low cut filters on the hats, the overheads, and the ambient microphones, just to get rid of that remaining boxiness of the kick and snare drum tones on the overhead and ambient microphones. So let's grab a filter plugin again here for the hi-hats, for example. Let's grab a part where the hi-hat plays consistently. And in order to mix that properly, I'm gonna bring up the volume of the whole drum MIDI here a little bit. Okay, this sounds way too boxy for a hi-hat. So I'm gonna adjust this now. Here, at this position, there comes in the boxiness of the tone, and you don't want to have those frequencies on your hi-hat. Here it starts to sound great. You don't want that low-end rumble. So this seems to be a good setting for the drum tone. Let's listen to that. I have to decrease that a little bit in order to not blast your speakers. And wait a second. Oh, maybe I should do this. Oh, solo the drum bus, please. Okay, it's difficult to make a judgment here because the overheads are grabbing most of the hi-hat tone or sound comes through the overheads. This is because the overhead microphones are much more sensitive compared to the hi-hat microphones, and because the overhead microphones are grabbing so much of the hi-hat sound, even if I mute this channel here and I enable the overheads and ambient tones, the hi-hat does not disappear. Look at this. And this is why I'm adding in only a little bit of the hi-hat microphone. It's pulled down to minus 21.2, but that's okay because most of the hi-hat tone comes through the overheads, as you can hear. There's our hi-hat already. So I don't need to add in that much of hi-hat sound from this channel. Let's get this. Can I please unmute that? Thank you. it just emphasizes the hi-hat tone a little bit more. It makes it just makes it, this channel just makes it to stand out in the mix a little bit more. The hi-hat is much more transparent and audible in the mix. This is the purpose of this track right here, of the hi-hat buzz. So, but since we got some overhead and ambient microphones left, we're gonna adjust the low frequency filters here on these tracks also. And I think, let me check that. Nope, on the ambience I use a different setting, but I use the same filter on the overheads here again. We can recheck that if that was a correct decision. So let's grab the part where a lot of cymbals are going on. So without the filter, here's our low end rumble. And now it's gone. Let's try to adjust it. Here the low end rumble comes in. Here it's gone. Here we got a little bit of it. So that sounds nice. So I'm gonna keep that setting. And since the metal Foundry overheads and the metal exclamation mark overheads are acting in the same way, I probably can go ahead and add this exact filter on the other overhead microphone too for my kick drum and snare drum. I only want the high frequencies of my kick and snare on this overhead microphones. Let's pull this down a little bit. You don't want to have this boxiness on your overhead, right? That doesn't sound good. This is 400 hertz rumble, and usually you don't want that on your metal mixes. So I'm gonna grab the high frequencies of the kick and the snare here to emphasize it a little bit in the mix. Now let's see how the kit sounds already without the ambient microphones. And I'm gonna disable the filters. How do I do that? Wait. Holy shit. A lot of boxiness going on. And it's gone. 3 low-cut filters on the hi-hats and the overheads. Cleaned up. It's like going over it with a vacuum cleaner and sucking out all the bad frequencies from the overhead microphones, right? That is some really great stuff here. Ooh. Nice. Okay. And since that helped the sound a lot, we're gonna do it with the ambient microphones too, because these two grab a lot of boxiness for sure. Let's see. Blah. They don't grab that much. If I compare that to the overhead microphones with disabled filters, these overheads sound much more boxy compared to these ambient microphones here. Okay, but let's get rid of some stuff here. Let's copy over that filter plugin and try to find that spot where the rumble comes in, right? I need a little bit more action here with hi-hats and toms maybe. And I'm gonna bring that up a little bit to be able to mix that properly. I like this spot here. Let's try that on the other ambient microphone. This ambient microphone is only grabbing the kick and the snare. Nope. Now the question is how much of that snare body I really want to grab. Because this knob right here will contribute to the sound in a great way. Let's listen to that in the complete mix, only the complete drum sound I mean, and see what the cutoff frequency of this filter does to the overall tone. It's gonna be huge. Sorry, that is a little bit too loud. I forgot to pull this down again. If you don't apply a low cut, a little bit of boxiness comes in. And now it gets cleaned up. So now we can adjust this low cut frequency of the metal exclamation mark expansions ambient microphone to our liking. Everything sounds great. If you like a little bit more body in your kick and your snare drum, you can pull that down far, like not too far, because you get the low end rumble, the sub lows in it. You don't want that. But anything above here, like the third mark, up to here is okay, and you can choose your sound with that knob actually. So I'm gonna do that now. This sounds a little bit too clean. It's over polished. I like it here. You got that nice snare, bam! That body there. Delicious. So Annex asking, do you boost the room mics at 1.4K? The room mics? Not really, no. I don't. I think I don't have to apply equalizers on any of these overhead or ambient microphones actually, because if we listen to that now, it should sound pretty refined already. Let's do that. let's listen to it with the song.